I'm sick of wasting time. I'll take a step back from all of this and try to find my way out of this shit. It's a labyrinth and I keep stumbling. I'm lost and broken, but I'm getting up again. They try to put me in a cage, but I won't get in. I look into the mirror and I see my better twin. I see my past life and I see my better twin. I can't let go. My hands are tied. Away. But I know I'll find my way to the puzzle of truth. I'll find my way to the puzzle of truth.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Eve, formerly known as True Crime with Eve, now known as the Eve Effect. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Again, like I have been saying the last few lives, my audio might sound, or my mic makes me sound like I'm in a tunnel because of where I'm at. It's a very open space. Can't do much about it, but sorry for the audio issues. I will do my best to try to be more clear. If you can't hear me, just let me know, okay? Awesome. Hi, Grammy H. Good to see you, dear. Miss Rubug. Matthew is silly AF. What up? Silence in the evidence. Lenny. Good to see you. Glad you're back in the chat. Ellie B. Welcome, welcome. And Little Devil. Been a while. Good to see you. The Cleaning Lady carries. That is an awesome name. Welcome in. And if you're watching the replay, welcome in. I'm glad you're here, whether it be live or not. Just go ahead and hit that like button, everybody, before we begin. Today was a doozy, so we'll get into it. I always do the recap of what happened leading up to where we're at now, and it's very short. Michael Vaughan, the little boy that went missing in Fruitland, Idaho on July 27, 2021 in the evening time near his home. And he was 5 years old at the time. And he was not seen on any CCTV footage. There were a few witnesses that saw him on his street and one questionable witness that saw him in the neighborhood adjacent to them. Other than that, here we are now with a suspect that was named, that the police had been looking at from the beginning, along with his wife, Sarah Wondra, and 2 of the sublets that lived there throughout around the time Michael went missing, named Adrian Lucian and Brandon Shirtliff. Now, that was a mouthful. Whew. Let me get a drink. I am parched. So Stacey Wondra, after, being questioned throughout time, he went to Washington County Jail in Idaho for a unrelated federal gun crime. And that spiraled into, here we are with a confession after interrogations, after polygraph, after this and that and the other. And what we learned today is quite amazing. Not because there was some groundbreaking evidence, not that there was something that just shook the earth with guilt. No, it was simply the fact that even the BAU FBI unit, who says, be careful, these types of people like Stacey Wondra who, born with fetal alcohol syndrome, has lifelong effects from this, are highly susceptible to false confessing, especially while in prison, and make up a lot of people like him make up a lot of the false confession exonerations that we see happening more and more frequently due to police interrogation tactics of these people. And it's totally legal. That was the consensus out of all of this witness testimony this week. And we'll get to that. We're actually going to work backwards from today's hearing and into yesterday. We're going to kind of ping pong back and forth because, to be honest with you, if you haven't seen the interrogation leaked footage, you should on your own time. It's out there everywhere of Stacey Wondra while he was in jail. But also, there's a lot of details that are really, severe that I think that you would be able to better make your own judgment call on if you watched it with no commentary. That's just me. So I'm not going to play it right this moment. But what I will say is that we will read what was said, what little they put out there, that it's not the full context, but we will go over the, small potatoes that we were given through KTVB, KIVI, local news outlets, okay? Let me say hello to everyone that came in just recently. September Angel, welcome in. Lori, hi, hi. Again, go ahead and hit that like button just to make sure that we get this pushed out so that people can hear not just one side of this potato, this horrible tragedy that I feel, and I just, going forward, I think it's very obvious to let everyone know that I do not believe in my heart of hearts and based on the evidence and lack thereof that these four people did the crime that um, the prosecution in Payette County is alleging them to have done. I disagree with the ruling today adamantly, but there is actually a very good um, futuristic uh, resolve that I feel like this is the only way it could get to that point for Stacey and the alleged three other suspects who are named in the PCA as being involved just because of Stacey Wondra's words, who again is susceptible to doing that, to rattling off these things, especially after being fed information by law enforcement and other people that were in contact with him during that time. There was a groundbreaking moment today that I just want to prepare you for because it might seem a little far-fetched if you don't know who I am, if you're new to this channel. But the canines, for instance, on the second day of prelim, all of that testimony, the biggest issue I had was that all of a sudden all of these hits started happening way after. Um, First of all, Michael went missing, and secondly, after an excavation happened when scent particles could be kicked up and moved down from somewhere. So the original spot, really, we don't know where that is. Um, and again, with preliminary hearings, you're not going to get all of the evidence, but you're going to get enough to convince a judge probable cause. One thing that you must know, guys, especially the ones that have been here sleuthing this case with me, right? You have to understand that there is none, zero, zilch, nothing connecting with physical evidence or DNA evidence to what happened to Michael Vaughan in any way, shape, or form, and what Stacey said. That is how little amount of probable cause you need in a preliminary hearing, especially in Idaho, in this county, to get charges bound over from the magistrate court to the district court who handles felony cases. Okay? So there was somebody that came in that wanted to ask a question. Hold on. Thank you, September Angel. I appreciate your $10 super chat. I rarely get those, so I don't ever expect it, but when I do get them, I'm very thankful. I don't ask for cash out. I don't put my Cash App on the screen and say, I feel bad for doing this like others. That's ridiculous. You don't care, you know, those people. But when I get something, no matter how small or large it is, I really do appreciate that. I do invest a lot of time and effort and money. I'm a negative balance girl on the YouTube streets. I can tell you that. I've probably invested thousands of dollars to this channel and specifically going over Michael's case, and I'm not lying. So, thank you. Miss Rebeck says, well, if there was no physical evidence against Stacey, there surely can't be any against anyone else. Well, let's say, was all the evidence tested? Do we even know who it belongs to? Meaning the tricycle that whose tricycle is this? Who was planting evidence to throw off this investigation? Obviously, the tricycle um, or whatever must have been like a decoy of some kind. Who knows? We'll get to that, and that is a problem. And I cannot wait to get to that one day when that comes to light, because I have a feeling it's related to planting evidence. You know, planting it to make it look like one thing when it's not. I don't believe these four are guilty of this either. Yeah, and I wanted to say that my ADHD kind of took over for a second. I do not believe in my heart of hearts, like I said, and my mind, my logical, critical mind, that these four could do this, did it, any of it. If they had some kind of part in it, it beats the hell out of me, except for being maybe an idiot around other people who took advantage of them. Because that's the only thing that I can think of. Um, Maybe a setup on their part. And they did have people that were not great people that did hang around, that did know, about their taxi business. They were very open and public about that on Facebook and stuff, and people were randomly following them all the time. So, but that's not what the prelim is really about, getting into the nitty gritty, because that's an actual, tactic that a defense team would come up with, things like that. And I'm sure they're way better at stuff like that than what I can say. So, having said that, um, we're going to go backwards from what the judge decided to bind over those charges today into district court, and how that is actually a good thing for Stacey. Now, I understand that on the other side of things, you have people that support the fact that Stacey Wondra must be complicit, because anyone who confesses, they wouldn't do that otherwise. That's not true. There is proof of that out there, that this is a textbook example of a false confession while in prison due to X, Y, and Z. Okay. I will say that there are many different things that a defense team could do in light of these charges to be bound over to the district court that will be so much more beneficial than just dismissing these charges entirely. And we'll get into that. Lenny says, or September, I agree with you, Eve, and you do great coverage, and glad to see that you consider all sides. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that's it. Yeah, hit that like button. It's free, lurkers and non-lurkers alike. Ellie says, what circumstantial evidence is there besides a possible false confession to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? None. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. In my very short time on this earth, and very short time reviewing crime cases over the last, let's say, 15 plus years, and definitely more than that, but I have never seen zero evidence except for a confession. I've never seen that, or watched, or invested in a trial that has zero. Right? There is nothing. Canine scent is really, it It's a 65% success rate on certain, um, like trail tracking, not trail, excuse me, cadaver dogs specifically. And I know that that's like a term of endearment right now, but 65% is not really that good. And but they have convicted people on just canine sense following here and there, when now we have knowledge of, differential scent tracking and things like that, that dogs should be able to know the difference between mom versus dad versus Michael versus whoever, right? Or an alleged suspect, etc. So the defense, in my opinion, had a great point, especially Mr. Tony Geddes, who explained yesterday that how does your dog know, your handler know, that it isn't somebody else in the home where their scent particle shares on this item that the dog sniffed? That's an issue. But would a jury care? That's kind of the thing that I worry about, is would a jury pick up on what a defense team would be saying in that regard? It's happened where people have been convicted over just that. That's very scary. So I can tell you, some people will confess to get out of hours and hours of interrogation without food or drink. Yeah. And I will tell you, knowing and speaking to Stacey as long as a little I have, actually, it's not been that long. Um, I would say what, the past year and a half, maybe? I don't know, something like that. Dude is impatient. You could tell that there is another level of um, 0 to 90, and he's not violent about it, but he does escalate if you push and push and push, and that is something that an expert should be able to definitely get into the minds of if this goes to trial to a jury. And it's actually very common for people like him. So if there's no evidence, and the BAU, who Detective Kelleher apparently forgot that this was a thing that she was aware of, is telling you that be wary of people like this and false interrogations, because it happens. Oh, we just skip right over that, do we, in our investigations? Okay, that's a problem. Isn't a confession enough? Absolutely not. It should never be. You should have the evidence to back up a confession and make that stick. Otherwise, we wouldn't have exonerations. No one should go down for a crime they didn't commit. If you would like to make the argument that a false confession should deserve jail time, I'm for it. I am for it. But it depends on the circumstances, and if it was a dire situation, like someone who is susceptible to breaking down and making stuff up out of their ass, right? It's happened before in other exonerations with things that Stacey Wondra suffers from, not just mental deficiencies, exactly what he suffers from. That's that's alarming. I wouldn't want to be a juror and convict somebody knowing that if there was no evidence, right? Hey, Cryptics, good to see you, dear. Welcome in. Um, Stacey wanted his wife to pay for what she did against their marriage. I agree. I absolutely, and he doesn't. He's never said that to me, but that's what I think. Because I think people don't realize what was being fed down Stacey Wondra's ears and throat. Could you imagine 3 or 4 or 5 different people in law enforcement in your ear, right in front of you, telling you that you know more, and you're going to go down for this, but we'll give you immunity if you just tell us. So that's when the story starts to cooking and the lies start to brewing, and it's taken as fact. And it just so happens that scent particles that could definitely be somebody else from that home who was definitely around walking the neighborhood, and I'm not just talking about the mom, okay? Talking about the dad too. Their scent particles could definitely mingle and mix into uh, wherever if you're walking around the neighborhood, especially if you're searching, right? Very interesting. Kelly says, Eve, I know you have always had to have a reason to fight against certain things in this case. I just don't quite understand what it is. Well, I'm not fighting it if you think that me making a very logical explanation to your question is fighting. I'm not fighting. I'm sorry you misunderstood me. But I'm not going to stick to something that doesn't have any physical evidence of value. That's just how I am. I would not want one of my family members to go down for a crime that they did not commit, especially a family member who suffered from disabilities or had a very, very tough start to life. You know, people have disability rights for a reason, and Idaho definitely doesn't sure give a fuck about them. So I hope that you do not have somebody that suffers from something like that and gets taken advantage of by the um, police and or judicial system. You'll never know. It might happen to you or your loved one if you have that situation. It's terrifying. That's why I guess I fight a little bit if you want to know. Um, it definitely should have been. Oh, I missed a comment. Sorry. He's recanted his confession, and I don't know why that was not really brought up too much. And he didn't plea. And Michael wasn't in the backyard like he allegedly said he was, right? Right. Yeah, exactly. If Stacey was involved, all four were involved, as they were all reported as alleged suspects working together. Not looking good at this point. Right. But how? Stacey never said I did it. This is where I disagree wholeheartedly with Brian or Judge Brian Lee. I think he failed to convince me, which he doesn't give a shit who I am, but he has failed to convince a little o' me and a lot of people who were listening and watching that what he said about having enough probable cause was reality. But it actually benefits Stacey more than you realize because of what happened today. We'll get into it. He wanted to rain down hell on Sarah and Brandon. Also, he wanted treats and non-jail food. Yeah, and you know, people like him will take advantage of that. Stacey did not confess to murder. Ding, ding, ding. He did not. We need the right people charged for this horrible crime. That's right. The wrong people charged means the perps are walking the streets, possibly doing this again, correct? Or maybe not doing it again, but benefiting greatly from the freedom that they don't deserve. If hearsay can put you away, then many on the YouTube would be in jail. That's true. That is true. Yeah, also the others haven't been charged. That in itself shows the lack of evidence, and I am worried. Um, once district, well, I'm not really worried, but we'll have to see what the district judge says because just let me tell you something. District court judges in Idaho tend to want you to get a grand jury indictment on murder charges such as this, right? And they also want you to have something when it involves a missing child. If you think a district judge in Idaho will willy-nilly let this pass, you better investigate. Maybe not them. That's not what I mean. But you need to side-eye the shit out of that district judge. I have questions, right? I highly doubt that that's going to get too far. Okay, we'll just say that. Especially some of the shit that happened today and yesterday. Apparently, the dogs tracked from Michael's to Stacey's. Never heard that before. Well, it was not really put out there where Banshee started. And we'll get to that too on the deep dive. There's zero evidence a crime was ever committed. No body, no DNA, no motive, no video footage. There's no evidence of an abduction at all. For all we know, the child wandered off and fell into the river, right? I mean, I highly doubt that's what happened. Highly doubt. But there's no evidence that what Stacey said in multiple different ways happened. It's actually improbable. And honestly, very easy to poke holes into. Oh, no worries, Hellcat. Welcome in. Welcome in, Shani. Oh, there's little Kimmy, lady, please shut up already. It's my live, you dumb bitch. Why are you here, you dummy? All right. And I meant that. I am not holding back anymore. Don't come in here talking shit because you're going to get it. You're going to get it. A lot of it. So, one more and then we're going to go get into it. If one of these four were the critics' family, they would be looking. You're a fucktard. They look at me. You're an asshole. You don't mean shit. You're really stupid. Okay? Somebody can block her because I can't do it from here. Go ahead and just like ban her. It's fine. You suck. You really suck. And have the day you deserve, little Kimmy. And get a better name, dummy. Okay. Oh, these assholes. So we're gonna go into the testimony of today. Work our way backwards. Okay. That is what we would do. And I think I figured out a way to be to stop being horrible. I'll talk shit to you. Right, Hellcat? Thank you, Brad. I have it. If we're going to tango, we're going to tango. We're going to do it all. We're going to full, full Now is where we fight. We fight for the right cause of justice for Michael, meaning the truth, which is what I've always done. The truth is the truth. In the words of Stacey Wondra, is not the truth to me when it comes to his false confession. I believe that and I'll stand firm on that. It is what it is. You don't have to like it. You can definitely hit X. It's very easy. Or get out of your app and move along. Okay, we're going to work our way backwards, like I said. So let's jump straight to, okay, the judge making his ruling. And then we're going to work our way backwards because the reason why I'm doing this is because there's so much video footage and testimony from Detective Kelleher, the one that wrote the god awful PCA, that you have to ping pong back from yesterday, which I didn't cover. So we're just going to kill two birds, one stone, right? All right. So the judge went to his chambers after well, let's start with the closing arguments of the prosecution and the defense. Let's do that first. Closing statements. Here we go. I'm going to highlight it so I remember where it's at. Okay. And for our blind baddies, shout out. I'm going to zoom in. Okay. Closing statements from prosecution. Duke notes that in Idaho, aiders and abettors are parties in murder. Okay. This is the prosecution, by the way. In his confession, Wondra indicated the body of Michael would be found in his backyard, and it wasn't. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But the state still views his confession as credible and that it does describe events that occurred. But in order to bridge problem of body not being where he said it would be, he's asking the court to look at the following. Wondra said body was buried on July 28, 2021, and backyard was not searched until November 2022. When he was asked in November what the detective should look at, he told them about the tricycle. Okay? He said it was on some boxes in the garage and he hadn't seen it before. He changed his story about the trike. Well, who told Stacey about that trike? Detectives did, and originally denied any knowledge of that, and still to this day does. So the trike was witnessed by a neighbor behind a gate on this side yard. That's where a live scent tracking dog alerted to Michael's scent. What witness, you ask? Starkey, Carson Starkey, the registered sex offender who lived directly next to the Wondras. Okay. The dog also alerted to an area down a bluff where the trike was found by another neighbor. That shows Michael was put in the backyard at one point. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Whatever do you mean? Can we stop? I'm already losing my shit. How are you to say that because a tricycle, who nobody can say who's this damn the tricycle belongs to, was put in the backyard or in the side gate in between the yards of the registered sex offender and the Wandras, that it's Michael being put back there? Because Stacey said with his mouth, after being asked and denying this beforehand, that he doesn't know what they're talking about with the tricycle during this alleged false confession that he's recanting, right? He's recanting his confession, saying, I don't know nothing about this trike. I just said whatever I needed to. That is evidence enough to Mike Duke that he was in that backyard at one point. Wow. That makes no fucking sense. It really doesn't. That's a reach and a half. Another piece of evidence is the cadaver dogs. During this hearing, we heard from handlers of at least 2 certified dogs that alerted to remains in the backyard of the Wanderers' homes. But who? Whose remains? How do we know it's Michael's? Wondra states Michael was given a dog's green stuffed animal to try to calm him down. Let me move this. I'm sorry, it's bothering me. Okay. Wondra states Michael was given a dog's green stuffed animal to try to calm him down. A dog had dug up the ear of that chew toy. Okay. There's also the reality that bodies can be moved. They can be. How do you know he was there? Duke tells the judge. Whether or not the fact Michael was in the ground, the prosecution... Duke. Bro. Whether or not the fact that Michael was in the ground, the prosecution wants the court to find Wandra's confession is still plausible and meets evidentiary criteria. I have never heard such buffoonery in my life. No wonder his face was red. No way. Put a 1 in the chat if you think this is absolutely bananas. I really do want your honest opinion. Don't let me sway you, honest to God. If you believe that this is downright pathetic, put a 1 in the chat. So far. I'll wait. Chasing True Crime says, Eve, I struggle with this. Why say all of that to police? It was a lot of info for someone who knows nothing. I'm torn due to no DNA or evidence. I get false confessions, but for the murder of a child, he did not. Everyone say it with me, and I'm not being rude to you, Chasing. Stacey never, not one time, ever, ever, ever said that he murdered a child or kidnapped a child. Not once. Never. He is saying that the other three did this, that, and the other. So he is a conspirator to not tell on these people, which is not what the charges brought are for. That's a different thing. That's failing to report a death, or that is being a co-conspirator to cover it up or something. But what he did not say ever was that he murdered Michael or kidnapped him. He was basically a laissez-faire. I'm not involved in this, but I just know about it after it was done, at least the kidnapping part, right? I just want everyone to really drill that into their heads because I don't think that a district court judge is going to let this fly. I wouldn't. Well, the courts proved today there is absolutely no proof he was in that house ever. Correct. That is correct. Stacey never said he did anything, only witnessed. But right, right. He didn't confess, right? He implicated the other. Right, exactly, exactly. I'm glad you caught on to that. It is a very tough one. I know. I've had many a nights where I couldn't sleep because of this case. So let's get back to it. That just blows my mind, dude. Whether or not the fact that Michael was in the ground, the prosecution wants the court to find Roger's confession is still plausible. But that's not what Stacey said. So if we're supposed to believe this alleged killer and his confession, he said Michael was buried. So now Duke is saying, well, whether or not he was, it doesn't matter. What he said was plausible. No, it's not. You're picking and choosing what you want to believe Stacey is saying, and you didn't find him in there or evidence that he was in there, except for using canine scent trails that led to the property around the house. That it just makes no sense at all. None. And the cadaver dogs hitting on something or human remains alerting dogs alerting somewhere doesn't mean it was Michael. Two things can be true. It could be something from the 1800s. Who knows? Right? Okay. Wondra makes himself seem like a mere spectator in the home. Duke says, but he believes Wondra is an aider and abetter. Well, then why didn't you charge him with that? Anyway, Duke tells the judge kidnapping is an ongoing crime, and it's not completed until the return of the victim or until the victim is deceased. In this case, Wandra's statements are very clear that Michael was alive when brought into their home. He knows a kidnapping has occurred. He observes Michael being duct taped, and he knows when he gets in the truck with Charlotte and Sarah that Michael is in the duffel bag in the back of the truck. He knows they're engaged in the act of kidnapping, and he knows Michael is still alive because he hears him screaming. Okay? Duke says they established an alibi before they left their Fruitland home, and the reason to tow, the reason they went to Kuna was for an alibi. When Wondra went with them to Kuna, he was helping them establish this alibi, which was to tow a car back. He brought the chain and strap, Duke says. He adds that Wondra was helping them maintain the secret of kidnapping. Wondra is assisted in facilitating the transfer of Michael by helping fill the car with steering fluid. Duke, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. We must get to Kuna. You better put the steering fluid in. That makes you complicit in making the car run to get the boy out of here. Give me a break. I can't believe this exists. I can't believe that statement came out of his stupid mouth. Can you believe that? Am I in La La Land? Am I the only one? Am I being too much? Please tell me in the chat if I'm being too much on that one. God forbid you're a taxi cab company that picks up two people that just committed a crime and they're telling you about it and you need steering fluid at the same time. Good Lord. You're guilty. Brandy and Tyler Vaughn are visibly upset in the courtroom listening to these closing arguments. Another component of aiding and abetting is counseling with other individuals involved, which Wondra did. The court is allowed to infer, meaning read between the lines, that Wandra's criminal mindset and his actions, even if they are not consistent with the words he uses. My God, no wonder they couldn't get bring him to no wonder. His actions are consistent with being in the same joint enterprise as the primary people who were committing the actual kidnapping. Where's the evidence that it actually happened? This is a joke. I'm sorry. It is. To me, the phone call Wander makes with his mother is very revealing because he shows remorse. His mindset at the time he was with Sarah and Brandon is that he feels he was engaged in a common scheme, Duke testifies. Michael dies as a result of the kidnapping because, and this is so just disrespectful in my opinion to say that this is how he died with no evidence. I'm so pissed off at this. I'm sorry, guys, I am. Michael dies as a result of the kidnapping because of the clothes placed on top of him in the duffel bag while he's duct taped. Let me remind everyone that there is no, excuse me, there is no duffel bag in evidence. The duct tape that was tested had no DNA of Michael or thumbprints or anything of value at all. And I think it's the duct tape roll that we're talking about. I just can't believe it. But what he says is true. Okay. These are people he lives with and is engaged in business with. All of that is to say Stacey Wondra is engaged in the same criminal enterprise and same community of targets as Sarah and Shirley. He testifies, and that is shown because he goes with them. Okay. God, this makes me think, Lord have mercy, have a retainer, a lawyer on retainer at all times. You never know when you're going to get caught up in some bullshit. Okay. Whew. Duke says they have an idea of what happened to Michael. An idea of what happens to Michael up until he's moved from the Wanderer's yard. At the end of the day, what the court has before it is a man who felt pressured because he thought he was giving a competing confession to his wife. Let me read that again slowly. At the end of the day, what the court has before it is a man who felt pressured because he thought he was giving a competing confession to his wife. Now, I would remove competing confession because that's exactly, Duke isn't all wrong. They told him, Duke told, or excuse me, the testimony from the detective, Juanita Kelleher, stated that, oh, we'll give your wife immunity. We're going to give her immunity, so you better confess to what she did. So that tactic right there alone should be reasonable doubt that his confession is worth a damn. They pinned uh, themselves against each other, meaning Sarah and Stacey Wondra were pinned against each other with those statements, and they both suffer from different mental deficiencies that we'll probably find out more about Sarah later. Um, but damn. He says he was worried Sarah would testify against him. Why? Why would someone who's allegedly innocent until proven guilty, right? Why would someone testify or say this? He said he was worried Sarah would testify against him and he wanted the benefit of a deal but didn't want to implicate himself, so he writes himself out of every account. Or let's look at it a different way. Let's look at it a different way. Maybe he was worried that he was going to get hemmed up on something that he had no part of. So he had to come up with a very convincing story, which is not convincing to me, but apparently the judge thinks otherwise. But he has to come up with very specific, detailed bullshit that he doesn't know about, that he's only heard through the detectives grilling him, or maybe what somebody said to another suspect, like Sarah, and then that's more information that's getting into his brain about what they told her. And he has to get ahead of this so that he doesn't get framed for a crime. He is sure that detectives are convincing him Sarah and the others did. In my opinion, only I am totally coming based off of my own theory here, especially someone with the deficiencies as Stacey, who cannot sit still and just ride something out without fucking with something or saying something because of what I know speaking to him for the last year and some change. He just can't not help it. I swear to God, he has no impulse control whatsoever at all. So he's got to get ahead of it. So maybe that is a possibility, okay? But that's not what Duke says. So when he was confronted with the reality that his story was not possible, we got closer to the truth. What's the truth? He is asking the court to bind over Wondra to district court for his participation in kidnapping, first-degree murder, because Michael died as a result of the kidnapping and destruction of evidence because their attempt to get rid of normal objects in their lives is staggering. Excuse me? So they sell their couch. That wasn't the couch that they were looking for and tested? Okay. Meaning the law enforcement, they literally went on Craigslist to try to buy this couch of the Wondras that they were trying to sell, I guess. And we don't even know if it's the right couch that was ever in their house. Um, I don't understand that. What do you mean? They got rid of their phones? Okay, people get rid of their phones unless they say we must destroy them because we're complicit in this horrible crime of a child. That's different, but that didn't happen here that we know of. Actually, we do know that that didn't ever happen. There was no text messages that stated that they had any involvement. None. Nothing, guys. Nothing. They took every effort imaginable to try to hide from this crime, Duke says. They were very good at it, but not perfect. Okay, I disagree. All right, so the defense. The defense, obviously, I probably won't scrutinize as much. Uh, but that was probably the most pathetic closing argument of a preliminary hearing I've ever heard in my life. In my life. I cannot believe we're here. And I am being snarky, because I mean that. If there was electronic evidence, surveillance, neighbor confessions of seeing Michael in the neighborhood that day, these four would have all been charged already. Look, I mean, right. I just don't understand how some don't agree it was at least one of the four that did it. We don't even have all of the evidence. I don't believe any of them did it. Prove prove to me there's a good reason to think that. Otherwise, with evidence, right? There's no evidence on anything, Lenny. Yes. Shady says I messaged you, Eve. Oh, got it. I did not see that. I'll check it later. I'm sorry. I think that there's too many conflicting things for me to say this person did it because I think it's more the neighbors. We'll see. I mean, I can't even completely say that yet, but I do have my suspicions. I personally never felt parents were involved, so of course going to go with the one admitting guilt, fault. But I do feel if one's charged, all four should be. I disagree. I just do. Julia says, I'm sick of people acting like victims when Michael's the only victim the entire time. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you. Good to see you. I hope you're doing okay. Justice for Michael. Agree. Why would someone come out to the public, speak to licensed professionals, law enforcement, and not believe him? What do you mean? You're meeting Stacey? No, I don't think that they should just like believe. I guess I'm not understanding that. Maybe clarify that because I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna keep going real quick, and then we're gonna and then we're gonna jump into Miss Kelleher, Detective Kelleher, and oh, I thought I that she would be a little more convincing. I was maybe there's something I'm missing, and no, I'm actually more pissed off. Okay, so defense begins closing arguments, and let me tell you, Tony did a great job. Tony Geddes, amazing, in my opinion. Okay, there is a gap between the evidence and charges, and the state has to overcome that, and they haven't done it. Geddes said the defense is guessing, and they are, because there is no body or parts of the body. He says the ear of a green dog toy being found during the excavation of the Wander's yard proves nothing. Nothing. Geddes says Wander did not make a confession. Nowhere does Stacey Wondra confess to anything. Correct. We have absolutely no idea what has happened to Michael. Frankly, we don't even know that he is deceased. We don't know if he's deceased. What if the boy was locked away somewhere in an unrelated, location that no one knew about to investigate because they were chasing these dumbasses? What are you going to do then? They're basing it on human remains detection dogs alerting to who knows what or who they were. It could have been, again, somebody from 60 years ago, 100 years ago. We don't know. The state has to establish probable cause that Wander had the intent and then followed, and this is blocking it, I'm sorry, with that intent and acted upon it. Nowhere have they established that union of mens rea, meaning guilty mind, and actus reus followed through. They have guessed at it. They had guessed at it. The state guessed at a lot of things, like they are storytellers. A citizen has zero obligation to report a crime. That's called, I plead the fifth. I do not want to self incriminate myself. You have that right. There is no criminal liability for failure to report a crime. Geddes says Wander got caught up in something and feels terrible about it because he didn't report it, but that's not a crime. Geddes points out Wander is charged with kidnapping and felony murder. He's not charged with aiding and abetting or co-conspiring. The state has to figure out how to make Wondra a co-conspirator because he isn't, by his own words, and everything he said. I agree. Lori, there is so much reasonable doubt. It's unreasonable how much doubt there is. Yes, Stacey did not admit he was involved, only witnessed and didn't um, report it or his involvement in not, I guess, squealing. Y'all ever heard of the Cleveland abduction? She was kept in a house in her own town for years. Absolutely. My point is, I'm going to look at the one admitting what's so hard to understand because that doesn't mean shit. I could say, Kelly, I could say I did it as an example. I did it, they didn't, I did it as an example, not reality. So don't come at me. Does that mean I did it? Does that mean I did it? I will wait for your response. Anne says if I was on the jury, I definitely need some evidence cooperating what Stacey stated in the confession to convict him. Right? Give me something. I could not in good conscience rule guilty without it. Amen. And I don't know why people don't understand that, Lenny, that or Anne. That is so crucial. Kelly says, I do understand the pressure of false confessions, but he come out here on YouTube speaking, so why wouldn't the public be satisfied with what he's saying? I think you're just trolling. It's very simple. There's no proof that he actually committed the crime. You have to have the evidence to back it up. Otherwise, you're just talking out of your butt. I have a pink crayon now. I still remember being told that story, and I will never forget it, and I still laugh about that. um, you'd have to know more not to believe a man's confession. No, you don't. No, you don't. No evidence. That's what you need to know. No, no, Callie, no. Just no. Um, where were we? By his own words and everything he said, guilty. I think not. By saying what the fuck when Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian walked in with Michael, it shows he had nothing to do with it. Yeah, what about that? Well, he said these other things, and we believe that he was telling the truth then. Maybe he didn't get it 100% right, but he said this and that, so that over trumps this, and guilty. He's complicit. We so desperately want to find Michael Vaughan. We so desperately want to know what happened to him, Getta says. No, there's no lie detected there. That's all we want to know. But that doesn't make Wondra guilty. Guys, he's right. There are 20,000 plus. This is so important. Please, please, please listen to this. So crucial. I didn't mean to do that, but that's fine. There are 20,000 pages of discovery. ISP, meaning Idaho State Police, went over everything with a fine-tooth comb. Every available resource, including the FBI, was tied into this case, and not one piece of forensic evidence was found related to Stacey or anyone else. The duct tape could have had DNA on it, but it didn't. Oh my God. So, what if a jury hears that there's no DNA on this duct tape? That he said in very specific detail in a video, you hear him making the sound of what duct tape sounds like when you pull it really fast from the roll. Okay. This is what he was seeing one of the other suspects do, allegedly, right? And there was nothing. There was no DNA on it. Not one piece of forensic evidence was found related to Stacey or anyone else. I am going to go get a drink, put on some music. Okay, give me just a second. I've got to get something to drink. I want you to sit on that for just a second. Okay. I will be back very quickly. I'm back. Thank you for being patient. So, I think I made myself clear. Not one piece of forensic evidence was found related to Stacey or anyone else. What do we do with this? What do we do? That's a tough one. All right. Nothing indicates Wondra has anything to do with it. There is no physical evidence connecting Wondra to the crime. Huge. So, let me do that again. There is no physical evidence connecting Wondra to the crime. But we have to understand that the judge doesn't have to really go that far in this hearing because it's just a low standard. He literally said that he did it, therefore, that's probable cause. Okay. But we can still point out the fact that there's no physical evidence. He says we can't bind over first degree murder or any charge, frankly, on guesses. He says people are going to see and hear a 5-year-old boy screaming and thrashing around in a duffel bag. Agreed. Canines didn't alert on the pickup truck either. But we are supposed to take the canine scent alerts very seriously around the home. And we don't even know if the Wanderers and the other two were even at the home when this scent was there. And we don't even know whose scent it really was at the end of the day. It's a guess. Cannot believe that. Canines didn't alert on the pickup truck either. And whoever said that, Samantha, or whoever said that, clutched them balls. You might want to redact that. It surpasses reason that a little boy was kidnapped, died, and buried, and they didn't find anything. It surpasses reason, meaning reasonable doubt. That's doubt. Geddes said at the end of the day, what Kelleher or the state thinks doesn't matter. It's about what they can prove. Agreed. Wandra is crying and upset in the call with his mom because something horrific happened and he didn't stop it. He was a coward. If we're going on what the prosecution is saying, yeah, he was a coward. And that has no criminal liability attached to it. Being a coward is not a crime. And I'm pretty sure somebody called him a coward very recently. So I wonder if that's just a coinky dinky that I rarely believe in. He points out you can't believe anything, Wondra says, because he changes his stories and lies. None of it is corroborated by evidence. Huge points, guys. Geddes says there is probable cause and evidence for count three, which is destruction of evidence, but that's it. And I don't even know what that is, to be honest. I really don't. Maybe phones? But that doesn't mean anything. The judge is, that we know of, the judge is going to take this under advisement and will return. It took him an hour to come back after thought and after probably reviewing case law, um, Supreme Court rulings, perhaps. Who knows what he was doing in there? Maybe he just wanted an hour to himself and already knew what he was going to say. I don't know. But this is what the judge says. I'm going to check in the chat before we get to this point. Uh, where the conviction of the suspect with the duffel bag? Was the vehicle impounded? What duffel bag? There was no duffel bag. And and I will not say more on that, but I know things. And it is nothing, way too much reasonable doubt, absolutely. What exactly is it, says Sunflower Soul 615, beyond the actual fact that a child was not being supervised and he disappeared? What do we actually know? I am genuinely confused and asking. Sunflower, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Welcome in. I have the same question, dear. What is it? Like the song from the 90s. What is it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. And we need, I don't know, we need, I think, more um, pretrial hearings, or at least a new, I think we need this to we need a redo on this, on these preliminary hearings. And if you don't know, I will go ahead and break the news that it is totally possible for the district court, if the defense wants to kick it back, they have the right to kick it back. If the judge finds that the defense was right, had a good reason to kick it back there and start over because of a bias or an error in the proceedings. So don't think that this is over yet, guys. We could be doing this all over again soon. You know, because I'm trying to think of ways of, you know, how did that get through to the district court? How did the judge really get there? And what are alternatives, right? Because it's obvious that the defense is going to fight for their client. So what are they going to do, maybe? What are some options? And that is one of them, is to go back if the district judge says, yeah, we need to get a new hearing. That wasn't right. The judge was too biased with something that he said, or there was a procedural error. There was not probable cause. Let's go try again. That is totally possible. So everybody don't get too comfortable in this. Charges are official yet. It is not the case. The judge is explaining what he needs to find to send the case to district court. It has to be based on substantial evidence on every charge. The nexus, as they call it. Judge Brian Lee said that. He's explaining what he needs to find to send the case to district court. And it has to be based on substantial evidence on every charge. He says his standard is whether or not probable cause has been demonstrated. That's his standard, okay? So he's educating us on what he perceives that to be in this case. Evidence presented. This is what he says. Evidence presented supports Michael was abducted, secreted away, and killed over the course of that crime. It also shows evidence was altered, destroyed, or concealed. Okay. Because Stacey said so? Okay. All right, Lori. Thank you for being here, sweetie. In making findings, I mean that really blows my mind. How did you get to that? Okay. I don't know. In making findings of probable cause, the court relies on criminal codes. The court also relies heavily on jury instructions from the Idaho Supreme Court. So the court relies on criminal codes, and the court also relies heavily on jury instructions from the Idaho Supreme Court, which means you must find the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt with a reasonable amount of high certainty. So, okay. In this case, excuse me, Wondra is charged as a principal in the crimes, and court is considering evidence through that lens. He is being charged as a principal, meaning um, the lead, the one doing the crime. This is where the error might come into play in the district court, in my opinion. Okay, this court finds substantial evidence has been presented as follows. Stacey Wondra seized or confined Michael Vaughan with the intent to secretly confine or detain him against his will, or that Wondra took Michael with the intent to keep him from his parents. What? How would how did Stacey Wondra know that not only is Tyler Vaughn getting high during the moments that Michael is alleged to go missing, and getting the baby's diaper change and ordering pizza, and then realizing Michael is actually missing? I mean, getting high. How would Stacey know, ooh, this is my time to shine? We were just talking about how we could abduct a child and sell them for money just recently, right? Adrian was like, let's do this. We're going to get a $10,000 cut or some shit. So he had to instinctively be a psychic and know Michael's out there. It's a crime of opportunity. At 7:08, we're parked on the side of the road to get some power steering fluid put into our truck, because we got to make sure this truck is ready to go, because we already know that it's going to happen without even seeing him. Okay. It just blows my mind. In the perpetration of the felony crime of kidnapping, Wondra engaged in conduct that caused the death of Michael. Okay. Unlawfully killing him without justification and with malice by taking the intentional acts that took his life. This is corruption at this point. I'll say it. Judge Lee, you're a liar, honey. I'll say that. I believe you are lying and you know that this is not true. That's my opinion. I can say that because this is absolutely bonkers. There's no evidence. It's all Stacey's bullshit, um, alleged confessions that was recanted. How can you say? How can you say that? I'm shooketh. He also finds Wondra concealed, distorted, or altered evidence relating to the kidnapping or murder of Michael, knowing they'd be used in the investigation. Okay. These findings are made more than anything else. Listen to this, guys. Oh, I'm so pissed. Because it's bullshit. And even the ones on the other side who absolutely would um, not admit it, they know. Even they know. Yeah. Stacey lies and has a problem with being consistent in his confession. Again, these findings are made more than anything else based on Mr. Wandra's statements to investigators, Judge Lee said. Mm-mm-mm. Hit. And to top it off like a cherry on a fucking Sunday, his statements are corroborated by investigators. Not by evidence, guys. His statements aren't corroborated by evidence. His statements aren't corroborated by any sort of fact. Free Stacey Wondra. Free Stacey Wondra. That is bullshit. Everyone should know this. Won't admit it because they picked a side. This is not right. This is not right. Just because some asshole investigator who may have a bias said it, that corroborates an alleged confession, but not evidence? Erroneous. Erroneous on all counts. The district court better do their job because I will not be silent. You bet your ass. So maybe somebody could, I don't know, if I show up at a bar one day in Paya, Idaho, and maybe I get somebody to, you know, threaten to kick my ass, so be it. Because I will not be silent. This is bullshit. Excuse me. The question before this court is not whether or not Mr. Wondra is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. See, I told you this. Again, the question before this court is not whether or not Mr. Wondra is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not the purpose of that prelim hearing, as I said. That will be up to a jury. But I do find that there is probable cause to support these charges because his statements are corroborated by investigators, and these findings are made more than anything else based on his statements to investigators. Oh my God. And I'm so glad to see in the chat that y'all agree that this is bullshit. You know, there are people that I know very well that have gone through the justice system and got railroaded almost just like this. Hi, Mr. E. Good to see you. Chris, how funny is it that the bestie Juanita remembers everything said except the fact that Stacey has fetal alcohol syndrome and except the fact that the behavioral unit that the FBI has warns investigators be wary of these types of false confessions from people like Stacey. Oh, I don't recall that. Of course you don't. Truman, my daddy. My daddy said take a picture of the Thanksgiving letter. So I did. Ugh, what grimy little fucking law enforcement officers they have over there. And I'm sorry if you live over there. I wouldn't trust a single one of them. In my opinion, only allegedly. So the big thing here is that Wondra will be arraigned in Payette County on April 15th at 10 a.m. So keep that date in your mind. I will make sure to keep everyone updated on that. Will I be there this time? I don't know. Was there a reason I didn't go to Idaho this time? I don't know. Glad I didn't. Very glad I didn't. All right. So I know that you guys probably don't know about, you know, how did we get here from the testimony of the words of Stacey Wondra, the ramblings of a madman under a lot of pressure, allegedly. How did we get here? Right? Thank you. I need somebody to ride with. That's a long drive. Yes, Grammy, it is very sad, and I couldn't imagine. Let's say that Stacey is convicted. Even if he is eligible for the death sentence, it will be years more drawn out convicting the other three. Yeah, this ain't going away. There is no moving on. quickly and starting anew. This is going to drag out for a very long time. Yes. I surely hope not, though. Because poor Sarah is still getting the worst threats and hate because her man, her ex, said she did it. Could you imagine being in the crossfires of a scorned lover, making up shit like that out of like it's a book, like it is a professional writer spewing this detail that to me sounds like bullshit, but to others is convincing. I could not imagine it being in her shoes because there's no evidence to suggest that she did anything. If Stacey Stacey's words are the only thing they're going on, this is going nowhere. I kind of feel better in that fact, knowing there is nothing of evidence that they could convict these people on. None of it. However, this is an ongoing investigation, so we'll see what they will concoct in the future. And hopefully that they can prove it's a reality, not just cooked up evidence or pseudoscience. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot to take in. Made me very upset, and it's okay to be upset. But there is light at the end of the tunnel because I am officially saying free Stacey Wondra based on that bullshit, and especially based on what the prosecution is saying he did. Yep, I am 100% free Stacey Wondra. You don't have to be, but I am. Absolutely. And I guess I deserve being burned at the stake for that. So, whatever. If that's what people believe, but I don't care. I don't care. I do not care. So, I did want to let you guys know we're not going to deep dive this, so I'm going to wait for the testimony of Juanita. I think we're going to wait on that because I've been on here for an hour and a half almost. And I need to read these documents. I want to get the transcript for you guys. I want you guys to hear every single thing that was asked by a judge, asked by the prosecution and the defense, and the response to that. I think it's only fair that you should hear the full potato, especially those in Idaho. But this is important. Um, so after lunch, when Juanita Detective Kelleher was released from her testimony, after lunch, the judge announces that there is an amended complaint. So this is what prosecutor Mike Duke, the little sneaky sneak, in my opinion, did. He removed the premeditation from the complaint. So the prosecution removed premeditation from the complaint, now making the charge felony murder. It is still considered first-degree murder because it happened during the commission of another felony, which is one of the nexus. Okay. Now, let's look up felony murder in Idaho. And I already know what they did. Like, I know what that scheme was. But let's just break it down. Let's say felony murder in Idaho. Criminal statute. Let's just act like we have no idea what that means. We don't know what murder means. We are idiots. In Idaho, felony murder under this code as a first-degree murder occurring when a death happened during the commission or attempted commission of a specific inherently dangerous felony. For instance, arson, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, rape. It does not require proof of premeditation or intent to kill. So, what does this mean? Felony murder falls under the first degree murder statute, covering deaths caused during kidnapping, obviously, in this case, even if the death was accidental or unintentional. So, because the testimony obviously came out that Stacey allegedly said Michael was accidentally killed during a kidnapping, uh, successful alleged kidnapping. That's why they're going to felony murder, because there was no premeditation to prove. They couldn't prove premeditation. They dropped it. So just wanted to let you guys know that and kind of break it down a little bit. Uh, Liability. A participant in the underlying felony can be held liable for death caused by a co-felon during that time. So this is the perfect example of his alleged false confession, or recantation rather. Um, a participant in the underlying felony can be held liable, meaning because he became aware of it and didn't do anything, I'm assuming, which is an issue because you have the right to not self-incriminate, but because he witnessed the aftermath of that, they're saying that it was still first degree murder. I don't know why, but okay. Intent requirement. The prosecution only needs to prove the intent to commit the underlying felony, not the intent to kill. So because Stacey said it wasn't anybody's intention to accidentally murder Michael by putting him in the duffel bag and the clothes suffocated him. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. That gives enough probable cause to change that to premeditation to not to just felony murder. So, first degree murder, either way, in Idaho is punishable by life imprisonment or the death penalty. So here's what Mr. Mike Duke tried to do, or is doing. He is trying to make this very hard to appeal later on. He's making moves and removing wording and doing this and that to make sure that there is no issue in, first of all, the binding over of the charges, and secondly, the appeals process later down the road. That is fucked up. So he's going the extra mile very early on because he knows that this is probably a very appealable case, potentially perhaps based on the procedure of the of this process in the judicial system. It doesn't make any sense. So he's getting ahead. Long story short, he's getting ahead. So that was it. The evidence was officially closed. I will show you what was the exhibits. I do intend, if they don't release some of it, that we will fight for transparency within reason, right? But I will show you what all was put into exhibit. One moment. Here is the excuse me, the court minutes from the 3rd, which was 2 days ago, and the exhibits that were placed and the state witnesses that were sworn. This is the breakdown of that. So we had uh, Tyler Vaughn, Brandy Vaughn, Dustin Witt, Julie Gibson, Deborah Hurlbert, Deputy Bryce Crimmin, Carson Starkey, Jason Horst, and James Smith. James Smith was the one that found the tricycle behind the bluff sign, and he took it home because he wanted to take the wheels for a wheelbarrow project he was doing. Seems like to be a nice guy, legitimate, just older. and likes to hobby. Seems legit. I do need to go over Captain Jason Horst. I have completely missed Home Dude, but basically he was the one that found the tricycle behind the bluff sign. Yeah. Yep. All right. The state's exhibit on that first day of testifying. There was a photograph of Michael, too, a photo of 1102 Red Wing Street, a copy of that damn Thanksgiving letter that Stacey was in the process of probably not finishing. Photograph of Big Wheel behind the bluff sign, photograph of the bluff sign. Photo of Big Wheel known to be seen in the Wonders' backyard. Known to be seen, not for sure known. Uh, it makes no sense. Anyway, there's that. I wanted to show you another thing. I think that we won't get the exhibit list for today's hearing until tomorrow, but you know I'll be going live, so I will let you know what that is. So again, this was yesterday. We have Juanita Kelleher. She took the whole damn day yesterday with the prosecution, and they added a jump drive with video of Kelleher's interview with Stacey on the 10th and the 11th, and then a jump drive with video of tailmate call between Stacey and his adoptive mother. So hopefully that will be available for us to see. I mean, we already know about the damn post-interrogation alleged confession that has been leaked, but we'll get to that maybe one day. I'm going to check them in chat and wrap it up. And then the next live will be deep dives, baby. Deep dives. All day. All right. Wow, there's a lot of chatters today. 4.5 years later, this is it. Not looking good. Agreed. Poor Michael. At this point, they want someone, anyone to pay for this crime, even an innocent person. Yeah, I mean, Mike Duke does have a running for something in the next year. So I'm sure he's ready to get this behind him quickly and move on so he can get those votes, right? Improper investigation, absolutely agree, in our opinion. The parents were told not to leave the property, and they absolutely did. That should have been handled immediately. I mean, that's a problem. Where did y'all go? Did you go where cinch tracking could be meddled? Justice for Michael. Is it, and it's sad for Michael. We don't get the real justice, potentially, right? Yeah, that's that worry. That worry. Shit. But what did you think the mammoth investigators could do today? We will get to that, sweetie. We will get to that. Thou shall not. Sorry. Yeah, she'll be coming up next time I go live, I promise. I need to really read into what she said today. It pissed me off a lot, so I had to walk away and just, like, you liar. But yeah. Yet in the beginning, Sarah was charged with failure to report a death, but a bunch of clowns throwing all these charges around. That's a good rhyme. I agree. No evidence. No physical evidence. All Stacey's words must be true unless it's not confessing to a crime. Then it's lies. Yep, I see lawsuits coming. I do too. God, I hope so. And the question of him coming on live with all of these YouTubers, he was being paid and was homeless for the money. Yeah. Talk about a. You're right. Yeah. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody. You broke up. Say it again. I don't remember. It was COVID at the time. Restrictions. Why a little bit out in the home? Well, I don't think anybody, especially in that area, gave a damn. But thanks everyone for being here. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't. It helps it get out there for other people to scrutinize or like. So please do so. I appreciate every single one of you, even the replayers. Share this out. Stacey, based on what the judge says, I do not believe is fair, even though he has a right to do what he did. I don't think that it's right to sit in jail for something that you are advocating him. And there's no evidence to suggest that he did it. It's wrong. So free Stacey Wondra. Thank you guys. Much love. You know, as I say, drink your water. Love on your family members. Keep an eye on them. And I will see you on the next live. Good night. Bye.
I'm sick of wasting time. I'll take a step back from all of this and try to find my way out of this shit. It's a labyrinth and I keep stumbling. I'm lost and broken, but I'm getting up again. They try to put me in a cage, but I won't get in. I look into the mirror and I see my better twin. I see my past life and I see my better twin. I can't let go. My hands are tied. I lose my way, but I know I'll find my way to the puzzle of truth.